Howdy, and welcome to the Lost Rider podcast. It's an honor and privilege to address you in the capacity of an interviewer, reporter, and media member. Too many modern media outlets have forgone the integrity and responsibility required of credible information sources. What you will receive here are straightforward discussions with legislators, agency leaders, biologists, engineers, doctors, and countless other experts that have the answers to questions often circulated as kitchen table issues. The title Lost Rider may be thought of literally as well as in the metaphorical sense. While there has been the instance that I was momentarily a little turned around at night in a wilderness area, the idea of being a lost rider in life, well, that fits most folks at some time. These renderings are coming to you in the form of the 25-year-old radio program, The News from the Camp House. It still airs every Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. Central Time on KULM 98.3 FM out of Columbus, Texas. The original intent was to relate outdoor topics to the general public. Immediately, it was found that all issues are relatable to the outdoors and that people are people. They all play a role and they all have a vested interest. It's this program's desire to answer common questions about how the world works, how it will operate in the future, and what's the holdup? So please listen, enjoy, and never hesitate to contact us with more questions and feedback. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition of News from the Camp House, a listening post of the Texas Sportsman Association. This is Herman Brune, and this week's edition is also brought to us by the Shaw's Bend Social Club. Shaw's Bend Social Club is a country club for folks who don't have a country club. All right, tell you what. I mentioned a little bit last weekend about the C.M. Russel Museum and their art show and auction, and we're here on the floor of the exhibition center right now with the executive director of the C.M. Russel Museum, Mr. Thomas Figarelli. Thomas, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here.
All right, now we're sitting here at the end of the show. And I'm going to let Thomas explain a little bit about what it's all about. And this is a once-a-year function, correct?
That is. It's once a year. We're over 50 years now of doing this, so it's a pretty special thing for us. And, you know, there's some many facets which we can discuss of what we do with this event, but simply put, it's just all about getting good folks together who love Western art and Western artists. And they can have a great time discussing art, buying art, selling art, and just making good friendships.
Well, that's it. I mean, this is easy to make friends up here. It's walk around the exhibition hall. Let me explain a little bit about what happened here. A fella comes up, he goes through the exhibition hall, he can meet the artist, he can talk to the artist, he can see what each person, the type of art that they do, you kind of get a flavor of it and talk to them. And everybody's friendly, everybody's good. And it's artists from pretty much all over the country, but then also a lot of local artists.
It is. You know, that's one thing. Great Falls is so fortunate, probably because of Charley Russell and his legacy here. We have a really large local art community. So there are a number of professional artists living and working right here in Great Falls, which is fantastic. You mix that with what you mentioned, artists from across the West, and boy, you've got a really nice collection of folks. And you know, the suites themselves, what you mentioned, when you walk through, you see all these different artist booths. So, you know, for the listeners out there, if they can just imagine these, 10 by 10 pop-up galleries with artists filling it with their own work. And, that's stuff that's for sale from the artists. But each booth is kind of like their little home, their little living room. They're welcoming you in to make a relationship, share some stories, and just have some fun.
All right. How many years have you been doing this?
I'm going into my 6th year here at the Russell Museum, and which is great for me because I'm a hometown boy from Great Falls.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you familiar with the Eastern Rocky Mountain front?
Oh, I am. It's gorgeous up there. Yeah, it's gorgeous. I mean, my folks are from Conrad and Fairfield, which are two towns, kind of northwest of Great Falls. So, yeah, that Rocky Mountain front is just iconic for me in my mind.
I kept the P.O. box in Shoto for 10 years.
Shoto, I have some aunt and uncles that live in Shoto. It's a great little town.
All right. Okay. All right. Tell people a little bit about coming to the museum. What all can they see the rest of the year?
Well, great question. First and foremost, our collection just isn't Charley Russell. I mean, that's the premier, area that we interpret, obviously, is the C.M. Russell Museum. But we also have works of other historic Western artists and then works of contemporary Western artists. But the crown jewels of our collection are Charley and Nancy's home and studio. So our museum is built in the backyard of the home and studio here in Great Falls. So why is that important? Well, that's important because you can see Russell art in a lot of different places, which is fantastic. His art is out there. It's collected and celebrated throughout the country, but no one has the home and studio. And you can then understand him better. You can understand Nancy better by going through the home and the studio, which we just recently conserved for the first time ever, and it's over a century of existence of those home and studios, that complex. We conserved it on a really high quality level to make sure that we got it historically accurate and correct, so the experience that people would see in those spaces is really top notch. Then our Russell collection itself is fantastic. We're very fortunate to enjoy some really meaningful Russell oils. The Exalted Ruler, which features, I think, a Rocky Mountain front landscape, in fact, is really the preeminent piece in our collection. But we have so many wonderful loans, Russell loans, at the museum as well, that collectors have entrusted us with. And they've allowed us to show them to the public, right? So, these are pieces that you don't always get to see, and we get to rotate them on our loan collection, which is good fun. And then, like I said, we do these other exhibitions of other Western artists. So right now, we have a show of Weinhold Rice, who was an artist that did a lot of work here in the West. He also did some work back in New York as well. And it had two very different genres and styles, but out in the West, as you can imagine, it was Western art for him. And he captured these great portraits of primarily Blackfeet subjects. And so we have a show of his right now, which is really fun. We have our permanent exhibition on the American bison, and that tells the story of why was the bison important culturally, economically, spiritually, and culturally. So we just have a lot of fun at the Russell Museum. We try to rotate our exhibitions 3 times a year. We kind of have a trimester setup, if you will. So we have a fall, winter, a spring, and a summer.
All right, what about getting school kids in?
Oh gosh, I'm glad you asked about that. That's a prime focus for us, especially during the academic year. What's fun for us as well is we're going into our 54th year of the Russell Essays. So this is an essay contest that some community members started, half a century ago to just answer the simple question, why is Charley Russell important? And so to help students answer that question, these are 5th graders, by the way, they come in and tour the museum. So each January into February, we have over 1,000 5th graders that come in and tour the museum and spend time with our education staff, and then reflect on why was Charley important to Montana, to the American West, and why is his legacy meaningful and enduring yet today. Now, they obviously do that through the medium of written word, which academically helps them. I mean, that's an important skill set for their developmental process as students, especially in 5th grade. But it's also true to Charley. Charley, some of your listeners might know, was a pretty avid writer. Now, he was not the most classically trained writer, right? I mean, he, allowed his authenticity as a Westerner to flow through onto his pen, but he did a lot of illustrated notes to people and was just really avid in capturing some great stories and some great comments on paper and sending it to his friends. So these students are kind of reflecting that same kind of propensity for Charley to write as well as do some art. The students do it too. They write, but then they'll also do a little postcard and draw it out and color it and submit it with their essay.
Oh, that's too cool. Okay, who judges this stuff for y'all?
Well, that's a great question. We have a group of retired teachers primarily that come together and they select a winner from each school, and then a citywide winner, and then a countywide winner. So we do a nice proclamation ceremony. The mayor always proclaims it C.M. Russell Week in March, and that's where we then present the winners a nice little check and a nice Russell print.
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my next question is, the kids certainly get the experience out of it, but then they get a print, and they get bank a little bit of something, but they get a print that they get to look at from now on in remembrance.
They do, and we frame it for them too. So it's something that is ready to go right up on their wall as mom and dad, celebrate them being the winner of the essay, whether it be for the school or the county, what have you. They can go home and put this nice Russell print up on their wall and just kind of always remember, how proud they were of their son or daughter in what they did with this essay. But then also as a family, hopefully appreciate our culture as Westerners, and at the end of the day, that's why we want people to display art, right, in their homes, is it makes us feel connected as a Western folk.
All right, and then, okay, last night's, you had 2 days of auctions, and I guess last night was probably the premier auction. Y'all's governor was here.
Yeah, he was. Governor came. Governor's a pretty big Western art collector, Governor Greg Gianforte. So, he's no stranger to the auction. In fact, far before the time that he was in the governor's mansion, he was here buying art. So it was fun to have him.
I'll be darned. Okay, I know one of the fellas I got to be friends with. The governor bought a piece of his sculpture.
Oh,
so yeah, he bought a piece of Greg Kelsey's sculpture. So. The Stargazer, one with the Indian on the horse.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, and Greg's an exceptional sculptor. So, I mean, it's a smart move to put a Greg Kelsey piece in your collection. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. You also had quite a few original Russells in the program last night.
We do. And, really for us, there's kind of a business model here we have to manage, right? So the historic pieces, especially Russell works, fetch a higher dollar value usually, right, than the contemporary stuff. But boy, we had some great contemporary sales last night too. We had a Jeremy Winborg piece set a record last night, and it sold for $75,000. Right. And for the listeners that don't know Jeremy, get online and take a look at him. He's out of Utah. He is a fantastic artist who the way he works is just fantastic. His medium and approach in his art is very unique. So check that out. But we're really looking to always have some nice historic works. Maybe a cross section of anywhere from 10 to 15 historic items to complement the contemporary stuff. And those come from consigners, folks that are looking to, maybe change their collection a little bit. Maybe mom or dad's passed away, a family's looking to maybe do some stuff with their estate, so they might consign a work to us. And we're just always so grateful for that. We know we sell Russell works very well. We look at the other auctions and what they do, and there's some that do a wonderful job, don't get me wrong, but we always have our Russell sales on Russell Originals perform at the top of the market. And so, we share that with consigners in an effort to recruit their pieces and recruit their commitments to the auction. And boy, it works out pretty much every year. Now, this year, our cover piece on the catalog was Russell's High, Wide, and Handsome, which, I think many people would say is one of his more exceptional watercolors. Right. Troy Black, our auctioneer last night, called it, in his estimation, Russell's very best watercolor. And that was a piece that was done for the 1919 Victory Stampede up in Calgary. And so we had it in an exhibition just a couple years ago when we were commemorating that century mark of the 1919 exhibit Charley did in Calgary. And so it's a wonderful piece. And the last thing I'll say about it is we have this wonderful black and white photo of Charley painting in his studio. So there he is working on his easel, and right above him, High, Wide, and Handsome. So it's fun to just see these pieces that have a history and a lore to themselves come through our auction. It just enriches, I think, everybody's experience and makes it fun to see a Russell work go to a new home.
There you go. Oh, that was that. And that piece went for $400,000.
Yeah, that's true.
And the artist sitting next to me told me that was $1 million piece. Somebody just got a deal.
Oh, they did. They got a great deal on it, which was wonderful.
Yeah, and my listeners are going, what? So, all right, I tell you what. Let's thank the folks who let us come on here every Saturday morning. We'll be right back. Thank goodness for all the great sponsors we have here at News from Camp House. H-E-B Food Stores. That's Stephen Tice at H-E-B. He helps me. He helps the community. He's a great man. I'm so thankful H-E-B loosened him up, lets him go around and sponsor a few things. H-E-B's got all your food needs. It's the greatest food store we got here in Columbus. Thank goodness for H-E-B. First State Bank. You go over to the First State Bank, they'll take care of all your loans, all your deposits, your savings, anything you need. Bunch of great hometown people over there. You got Celia Tobias, John Pollock, everybody over there is looking out for you. Miss Barbara Barta. It's a great bunch of folks at the First State Bank is also sponsoring News from the Camp House. First State Bank takes care of all my business. Baumgart Agency, Susan Baumgart at the Baumgart Agencies, her and Germania. She told me to plug Germania. Germania is an insurance that she likes to everybody to know about. The Baumgart Agencies. Miss Susan and I are classmates, being classmates. She got me out of high school, sat right beside her, put us in alphabetical order where I could copy. And Susan Baumgart over at the Baumgart Agency taking care of all your insurance needs. Lyco Realty, one of the original sponsors of News from the Camp House. Lyco Realty, the oldest real estate company in the county, and for the last 3 years voted the favorite realtor in the county. Lyco Realty, that's Miss Kimberly Johnson, that's Crockett's granddaughter. More kinfolks and classmates and great people from Colorado County. People from Colorado County helping people from Colorado County. That's great. Oh, thank goodness for all these wonderful people come to me want to be sponsors for News from the Camp House. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition of News from the Camp House, listening post of the Texas Sportsman's Association. Tell you what, we're here in Great Falls this morning, finishing up at the C.M. Russell Museum art exhibition and auction. We're here with the Executive Director, Thomas Figarelli, and he's telling us everything. You know, Thomas, I'm a little bit embarrassed to say that, I was up here in June, and when I came home and I was talking all about this, there's young people that don't know Charley Russell, especially when you get 2,000 miles from here, and you've got a whole different culture, down in Texas. And you say something about Charley Russell, they just look at you. They don't put it all together. And that's one of the things that I really enjoyed coming here to this is, looking around and seeing so many young artists.
Oh, gosh, you're absolutely right. I mean, two things. I mean, number one, like you said, we've got a really great crop of young, new artists here. Even though they might be young in age, some of them are definitely not emerging. I mean, some of them, Jeremy Wimborg, I'll mention, he's a young guy. But, boy, he's been established now for quite a few years, which is fun, right? It's great to see some young folks getting into the Western art scene and having staying power, right? And building their own collector base and growing greater circles of people who know them and appreciate their art. Because all that does is encourages other young folks. So it builds upon itself, right? So that's a good thing in and of itself. But you touched on, I think, the number one challenge in the American West for any museum, gallery, period. And that's getting a new generation involved. And, there's no formula to how to do that, right? I mean, it's something we think about on a daily basis. Interviews like this, right? An important aspect to that. Doing some more, interpretive interactions within our exhibits is another dynamic that we've started to prioritize more and more, because we believe that a younger generation just isn't looking to see original art, though there's still value in that, and we can see a good reaction from the younger folks, but they want an experience. They want a memory. So our exhibits have to give them that. But, boy, that's so crucial, because the American West has a timeless story to tell. We just need to make sure that we keep telling it.
Well, and it's still out there. I mean, anytime a person comes into the American West, you come up to Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, big part of Texas. Yeah, the story's still there, and all you got to do is get out and around and amongst people, and you'll start hearing it. Everybody's got their own part of it, and it's just a matter of getting out in amongst people and hearing the stories of the American West, and hearing the history and some of the ongoing stuff. I wrote a piece a while back for Hook and Barrel magazine, and they wanted to know the cowboy way. That's what the name of it was. And in that piece, I said I won't believe. They're always saying, well, it's a dying breed. The cowboys are a dying breed. I don't believe it. I believe there's new ones born every day.
Well said. I like that. And I would believe that same thing. And you know what? a real cowboy is someone who's right out on the range working, you know, with the animals. But I'll tell you though, there's a cowboy spirit that can live in anybody, in any profession, in any walk of life, from any corner of the globe, right? And the cowboy way, the cowboy values, you know, that's something we think about too. And you know, I think if we continue to position Western art as a way for us to conversationalize values and our heritage and ideas, that does bring new people in the mix, because it gives new, fresh energy and perspective to Western art and to Western culture. So, you know, I appreciate you bringing that up and writing that, because we got to do it. I think it's an imperative for us as Westerners to talk about, well, what made the West special is what still makes the West special. And that's, you know, the way we live.
Yes. Cowboy Way lives on in all your first responders, all your, you know, anybody with the individual spirit that gets out and just gets the job done the way they got to get it done. Now let's not get too deep. You know, this morning on Facebook, Sheriff Jim Wilson, just happenstance. He's a West Texas gun writer. He's an older gentleman. He used to be a sheriff out in Crockett County, out around Ozona. And this morning he posted, just happenstance, that he posted Charley Russell's print Bronc to breakfast. And he said that one of Russell's tricks, one of his favorite things to do, was to put the cowboys he knew in some of these paintings. And it drew interest from, you know, the guys around him to see who would show up in his paintings.
I know, isn't that great? You know, and that's one of the things we talk about, Charley's values. Friendship meant a great deal to Charley, right? And, I mean, it's reflected in just that, right? He did put a lot of people he knew in those pieces. It's kind of a way to, you know, maybe reflect a story that they all experienced together, right? But also, I think, to just kind of, like, share his appreciation for them as a friend. He says, I'm going to memorialize you in a piece of art. You'll be known forever, right? Yeah. And it's true. Some of his, you know, real good cowboy friends, Teddy Blue Abbott, you know, is one that, you know, is kind of a well-known cowboy here in Montana. And, you know, lots of artists have captured him. Charley too, right? And once again, coming back to the event, it's kind of why we do these suites and have the artists there. And they love to just be with each other, right? And visit and talk about techniques and talk about things that they're working on. And gosh, that's a special thing.
Well, last night there was a piece, young lady in the auction, Miss Brooke Wenzel.
Yep. Brooke
Okay, she had a piece. It was 7 ladies riding out of the mountains. And she actually started painting it before. She's telling us this story at the bar last night. And she actually started painting that before she met the people, because she knew that country that they were coming out of. And this was kind of almost a consignment piece. It was a suggestion, why don't you do this? Yeah. And she went out there and went, yeah, okay, well, let me see what I can do. And she already started working on it. And then when they came out, you know, she's looking at them, and then she's doing the piece. And one of the ladies she said it was unbelievable, because one of the ladies had taken a picture of the group and then took the picture and looked at the painting and went, how'd you do that? How did you know this is what it was going to look like? You know, and it was hilarious. And then you know, she told that story, and how special it was that the ladies that she had done a painting for them, and that, you know, they were all included in this painting, and the painting did exceptionally well last night.
Oh, it did. And she is a special artist. Yeah. I mean, she really is. You know, that story I think is just perfect to her, right? Yeah. You know, she's a very thoughtful, creative artist, and she has really good vision too, for how to build a composition, and as a fan favorite as a result. And kind of go back, she's a younger artist, right? But once again, I mean, she's been established now for a while. She has a really loyal following out there of collectors. So we're proud to work with people like Brooke. She's fantastic, and all of her peers are just people that, without them, without their art and their willingness to consign it in this sale, boy, we'd be nowhere as a museum. I mean, they are the lifeblood of what makes our financial engine go through this auction, but also just makes Western art relevant in people's minds.
Well, and we ought to point out to everybody too, this was a great event because I think we'll shock people a little bit too much when we get to talking about numbers and what some of this stuff costs. But this is a wonderful educational thing for young people to learn culture and the actual value of culture.
Oh, absolutely it is. And, that's what we want people to take away. We want them to have fun, sure. We want them to buy art, absolutely. But we want them to take away appreciation of Western culture. Our tagline as a museum is to advance the art and soul of the American West. The art part is taken care of with our artists by living artists today, historic artists like Russell. The soul aspect, though, depends on all of us, you, me, everybody. We all have an obligation to let the soul of the American West breathe and be relevant in people's lives.
There you go. All right, Thomas, thanks for being with us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, folks, I hope you all enjoyed it this morning and got a little idea of what's been going on up here at the Charley Russel Museum up here in Great Falls. It's been a great trip for me. I'm fixing to start pedaling south. This weekend's edition was also brought to us by Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club for folks who don't have a country club. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed it this morning, and y'all just remember, pretty much any day is a good day to be out in the woods.